in which Jesus is teaching the saints. This is what Eugene Peterson wrote. When Jesus saw his ministry drawing huge crowds, he climbed a hillside. Those who were apprenticed to him, the committed, climbed with him. Arriving at a quiet place, Jesus sat down and taught his climbing companions. This is what he said. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are. No more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being full of care, you find yourselves cared for. You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind, and your heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. It's a great translation, a great interpretation of the Beatitudes. In it, we understand that loving God and loving others is an uphill climb. The saints who have gone before struggled up this hill just as we do. They struggled and they climbed, focused on the one who drew them forward uphill into the kind of grace-filled awareness that fed their spirit with goodness and hope and justice. Loving God and loving others is an uphill climb. As the saints before us climbed, so we climb today and this week ahead. Despite the steep incline and the dangers, we focus on the one who draws us forward into a grace-filled awareness of who we really are, of whose we really are. We are the climbing companions of Jesus. Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever thought of yourself as a climbing companion? I have not until I read Eugene Peterson's interpretation in the Message. We are the climbing companions of Jesus. We faithfully put one foot forward and then grab onto something and then put our other foot above it to follow Christ. Through pandemics, through elections, through struggle and strife, through disappointments and dangers, we climb with careful, precise movements, slowing down when we get winded, offering other climbers a hand or receiving some help, offering a word of encouragement. We climb together with all the saints up this mountain. Being a saint means that before we are citizens of any nation, we are citizens of God's kingdom. We are beloved children of God. We belong to Christ more than we belong to any other entity, to any nation or tribe or political party or person or identity. We belong to Christ. The evil of this world seduces us into thinking that somehow the love of God is reserved only for people who agree with us, for people who look like us or think like us or pray like us, whatever that means. And it was Jesus who taught us a different way, a better way, a godly way, a way of love that is indeed an uphill climb. Jesus taught us a love that unites us together in the Spirit of God, despite the divisions of hatred and greed. This love that unites us together in the Spirit of God is at the heart of being one of Jesus's climbing companions. A love that is patient and kind and slow to anger and pure love like God's love. Jesus's climbing companions, the disciples in Matthew's gospel, are now revered as saints. I'm not sure they understood that then. And when they got up that very real mountain, Jesus had a sermon for them, for his saints, a sermon to invite them into that pure love of God. Jesus said to them, "Saints, you're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that cannot be bought. And Jesus said to them, saints, you're blessed when you care. At the moment of being full of care, you find yourselves cared for. Saints, you're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and your heart put right. Then you'll see God in the outside world around you. Saints, you're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate. That's when you discover who you really are, your place in God's family. Jesus also invites us to be saints, to be blessed, to be content, to care for others, to get our minds and hearts put right, to cooperate. Being a saint is an upward climb. It takes stamina and grit and determination and faith. Each of us in this community are strong and fit and ready to climb up that mountain alongside Jesus, especially since we don't travel alone, we travel together. So my fellow saints, this morning in this sermon, I have 3 invitations for you. First of all, I invite you to be a saint. Claim it. Breathe in the truth of God's love for you, God's goodness working in you, and commit to understanding yourself as a saint. I know, you've made mistakes. You don't know the Bible well enough or go to church enough or whatever you're thinking. It's okay. God has it all covered. That's the part that we call grace. Jesus calls us to follow him up that mountain. And when we follow, we are saints. So be a saint. My second invitation is for you to be a saint in this community here at St. Andrews. Make a pledge for ministry to financially support the labor that we share as saints, together following Jesus up, up, up. Join with other saints at St. Andrews so that we can have this brighter, bigger, saintly impact in our community. Be a saint in this community. My third invitation for you this morning is to be a saint, especially this week. Choose the uphill climb of following Jesus with precise action, thoughtful action, action that moves us towards love, towards unity. Let all hatred and malice fall away from you and replace it with something holy, with precise, wise, thoughtful, loving action instead. We have known many saints who are now united with Christ in heaven, who from that other shore encourage us to stay the course of loving God and loving others, even though it's an uphill climb. I imagine if they could speak to us today, they'd say it's worth it. Stick with that uphill climb. Some bright morning, when this life is over, we will all know deep union with God and with one another, with all the saints in light. And here's the really good news, fellow climbers. Even while this life continues, even as we climb uphill and we struggle, we can know that same union right now. We don't have to wait. That same deep union with God and with one another, we don't need to wait for when the saints go marching into heaven to be the saints all together in God's love. We can choose to be those saints today. We can know that love of God flowing among us here and now, today, this week. It will take everything we've got to keep on climbing, to keep on loving. And by the grace of God and through the wisdom of the Holy Spirit, we will climb. We will climb this mountain with Jesus. Amen.